have you noticed that sometimes the people with the most wrong opinions say them with the most confidence? And conversely, some of the smartest people, the ones who really know their stuff, are the ones who are the most hesitant to say anything, especially with confidence. Right?
Silence is golden, speech is silver.
Well, I mean, better is W.B. Yeats said in Second Coming, the best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity.
Fools rush in where angels fear to tread.
Correct. So today, we are going to talk about the overconfidence of idiots. Okay.
So today we are going to talk about a lot of the people I have worked with throughout my life.
Yes. So it's called the Dunning Kruger effect. First studied by psychologists Dunning and Kruger, and since then it has been replicated in so many different situations, so many different areas.
Particularly in a lot of offices I have worked.
Yes. So let's start with the main example, which is there in their original study, right?
Yeah.
What they did was 141 students before who took an exam, right? They asked the students how they felt about their own performance, right? And compared to the other students, where in the class you will be, right? And then that is their perceived performance, both absolute performance as well as relative grading performance they asked for.
Correct.
And then compared it against the actual performance.
Right.
And what they found was this graph of Dunning Kruger graph, which is very, very,
Can we call it the karate graph? Sorry, bad.
So basically, people who are at the lowest end of the spectrum, whose performance was the worst, actually had quite a high opinion of themselves, right? So these are people, the bottom 25% of class thought they were around 60% top.
Listen, nobody believes themselves to be in the bottom quartile. And anyways, people don't understand quartiles, okay? A lot of people don't really understand what quartiles mean.
That's irrelevant, okay? The point is that people who are at the bottom of the class thought they were above the average. They were above the middle.
35 students basically thought they were better than 70 students.
Yeah, something like that, right? In general, if you look at all the students, all of them thought they were above average, or at least most of them thought they were above average. Okay. The other interesting thing is that people at the top end thought they were actually a little worse than what they actually were, right? So those are the two interesting findings. The bottom thinks they're above average, and the top
thinks they're below the top.
Below the top. They don't think of themselves as below average, okay?
Yeah.
But
no,
they're
of
a
course
little
not.
below less.
Everybody thinks of themselves as above average, yeah. Right. I am above average.
So this thing has been replicated not just in exams, but in a whole number of different areas.
Yeah.
And once we talk about it today, once we talk about the various examples, you will start seeing it and how it impacts your life.
I'm sorry for this quick off-topic digression, but the worst place this actually appears in is something called the bell curve rating in appraisals that happen in certain big companies. Look it up, bell curve appraisals. I hate it. I hate it with a passion.
So, I mean, office is the obvious example. The most confident people in the office are not necessarily the most competent, right?
Anybody who has worked in an office agrees with this statement.
Yes. But also, stock market, right? If you talk to people about the stock market, the ones who are most confidently going on and on about what this stock is going to do and what that stock is going to do are probably the ones who most likely lose money in the stock market, right?
You just ruined a lot of YouTubers' livelihoods.
So another example.
Some probably in this office and probably me in the future. Anyway.
So another example, right? My friend Doc Bhushan, who's a psychiatrist.
Good one.
I'm just going to read out a tweet of his, right?
Please.
Where he's saying that huge clinical confidence is often a sign of inadequate education, experience, and honest introspection.
Yes.
Right? Basically, he's saying that the more confident a doctor is, the more likely that the doctor is a bad doctor, right? Direct Dunning Kruger effect, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, these are just anecdotes, impressions. But let's talk about actual studies, right? There is an actual study.
Listen, I'm willing to accept all of these anecdotes as absolute gospel data.
That guy there is not convinced. So I'm going
Trust
to
me,
convince
that guy is also convinced, because that guy is also definitely experiences. But sure, go ahead, give us data.
Managers who think that their managerial skills are above average are usually the worst managers, right? No, I'm not talking about
I actually should go out of this episode and let Naveen speak, because I will just be laughing throughout this episode.
One more. A recent study talks about what they discovered, the bullshit blind spot. Okay. And basically what they found was that the people who think they are extremely good at spotting bullshit are the ones who are worst at spotting bullshit and are easily taken in by bullshit. Okay. So
this is giving me flashbacks of so many kinds.
No, so instead of what happens, let's talk about why it happens. Let's try to understand that, right? Think about the impact this has, right? I mean, think about the poor people who have such high opinions of themselves. So they
I never have been able to understand how they cannot realize that their opinions are inflated.
Well, that is
how do you lack that amount of self-awareness?
Well, the reason they think they are good is because they don't have self-awareness, right? That's called the dual burden, which is that they actually don't have the skill. That is disadvantage 1, and that they don't have the skill, or they don't have the ability to judge quality of their skill, and that is the second disadvantage they have, right?
And if you think you don't have this disadvantage, remember the time you were watching a cricket match and said, "Arey, square cut would have been a better option." You lack the awareness that you don't have the skill.
The point is, ignorance is everywhere.
Yeah.
And ignorance is invisible to the people who suffer from it, right? So it's an unknown. Right?
Yeah. Ignorance is bliss, and everybody likes to live in bliss.
The reason this happens is that, one is called the better than average effect, which is that pretty much everybody thinks they are better than average.
Yeah.
So obviously, the person at the bottom is going to have a very inflated sense of their own capability.
I would like to rephrase that a little bit. I know the statement is everybody likes to think they're better than average. The truth is, nobody wants to be worse than average. That's
Correct.
why they assume themselves to be better than average.
Correct. And it's a system 1 thing, right?
Yeah.
So system 1 does not want to admit that you are below average. So it makes up reasons, and system 2 makes up reasons to convince yourself that you are above average.
Retconning. Go check out the episode on system 1 versus system 2 and you'll know
another,
what this
a simpler reason could also be that, in general, there are lots of low performers and very few high performers. And so obviously there is going to be, within the low performers, there are some who have a reasonably accurate idea of their own abilities, whereas there's some who don't. And that's why you get some people who show up as, much higher perception of their own abilities, whereas the people at the top don't. There are much fewer. But what I really like is to think about in terms of the 4 stages of competence. Okay. This is something we have talked about in our episode on the dip also, right?
Okay.
And deliberate practice. So when you start out, okay, you are incompetent and you don't know you're incompetent, right? Unconscious incompetence. So you are bad and you don't know you are bad because you know nothing about anything, right?
The first time I tried to kick a football very confidently, thinking I will hit it straight to the person in front of me.
So that is you being at the top of the Dunning Kruger effect, right? Then as you start digging into that skill, try to start learning, then suddenly you realize, oh, I don't know anything, right? That is conscious incompetence. So now your own perception of your abilities goes down sharply, and now it is sort of aligned with what
the reality
right?
Yeah, this is where I spend most of my time in life.
If you continue
conscious incompetence,
practicing deliberate practice, right? Then what will happen is conscious competence, right? You get better at it, and you know you are
getting better
at it, right?
So there's an entire episode on deliberate practice that you should definitely check out.
Now again, your perception is aligned with reality, but you're up above average, right?
Correct.
Then after a while, what happens is unconscious competence, which is you're very good, but you've been doing it for so long that you have forgotten the struggle, you have forgotten how bad you were, you have forgotten how long it took you to get here, and you have forgotten that you are good, right? You just do it without realizing it, and you don't even think it's a big deal, right?
Yeah.
And people who are like 5 years behind you, they're like, oh my God, he did that, and you don't even realize it, right? That's why the most competent people appear as if they have a lower perception of their own abilities. That is unconscious competence, right?
Yeah.
So this concept, Dunning Kruger effect, is related to a lot of things we talk about, right? And in fact, so I want to go through some of the episodes that are we have done in the past and that are related.
Yeah.
So when we talked about the dip, how anything important you want to do, initially you make a lot of progress, and then there is a dip.
Correct.
It's very related to the Dunning Kruger effect. Initially, you don't know how bad you are, and so you make progress very fast.
Yeah.
And then after a while, you realize, oh, this I don't know so much. And that's when you hit the dip.
Yeah.
And only when you get to the conscious competence and unconscious competence stage, that's when you start making the real returns from all that investment, right?
Correct.
Similarly,
It's a very funny and very fascinating way to look at it. Oh, I'm incompetent, so I'm learning really fast. Then I realize that I'm truly incompetent. Dip.
Yeah. The other thing we talk about is how the real way for you to improve and become an expert is through deliberate practice.
Yes.
Okay. And deliberate practice, one very important thing we pointed out was that you need to have a coach.
Correct.
Or some external person who tells you what you are doing wrong, so what you need to improve.
Yes.
And that is directly tied to Dunning-Kruger effect. If you try to do it yourself, you have no idea what you are bad at. You think you are very good.
Correct.
Right? Someone else has to tell you that improve this, improve this, improve this.
There needs to be a feedback mechanism that is clear,
right,
and honest.
And sort of related to that, opposite of Dunning-Kruger effect.
Except if the feedback is only clear and only honest all the time without any help to you, then that's not feedback. Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yes. So the opposite of Dunning-Kruger effect is the imposter syndrome, right? Which is that people who are good, a lot of people who are good, they really think they are not that good, right? And I mean, you see some connection to the top end of the Dunning-Kruger effect. But the other way to think about it is this, that if you don't have imposter syndrome, then you should worry that you probably you have Dunning-Kruger, right? So
what if now I'm 100% sure that I don't have Dunning-Kruger?
Yeah,
what does that tell you?
Yes. So another episode we did was something we called the overconfidence and illusion of explanatory depth, right? Where people think they know a whole bunch of things, but when you make them actually do something or get into the details, that's when they realized, oh, I didn't know this.
Correct.
And again, that you can
that
see
was a fun episode. That was a really fun episode.
You can see the relationship with Dunning-Kruger effect, right? Because you haven't gotten into the details, you have an inflated opinion of your ability to understand things, right? So, and of course, forget episodes, right? I think one of the most important areas where Dunning-Kruger effect has a big impact on your life is social media, right?
Before he goes on to talk about social media, if we have already shot these episodes. If they are ready and available for you, you will find links to them in the show notes. If not, just run a search on the channel and you'll find them, or just go through all of the episodes. You'll enjoy them for sure.
Right. So one thing for
social media
example is that the people most confidently posting on social media are probably the ones suffering from Dunning-Kruger and are the ones who know the least, right? They are the ones who shouldn't be posting, right?
Yes.
So in general, one takeaway message is that, stop enrolling in the WhatsApp university, right? Everything there has to be taken with a heavy dose of
truckload of salt.
A truckload of Dunning-Kruger. Right?
Truckload of
so the converse of this is,
I am not on WhatsApp, I'm not on social media, I rarely post my thoughts anywhere.
Yeah, so that's the converse of Dunning-Kruger, right? Which is that good people are not sharing on social media. Why?
I am impressed he called me good, and I am very pleased he called me good. And
But the most common thing I hear from some of the smartest people I know, not necessarily you, but there are others.
he has to bring me back down to Mother Earth.
Is, oh, I have nothing interesting to share.
I don't have anything interesting to share.
Exactly. The people who don't have anything interesting to share are the ones convinced that they have interesting things to share, whereas the ones who do, don't, right? And the message I have for people like this.
Look, everything interesting that I have to share, I come and share here. What else can I share?
The message I have is that we need the good people to share to undo the effects of all the others, right? But do not think of yourself as an expert sharing expertise with the world, okay?
I am not an expert.
Yeah, and no expert thinks of themselves as really an expert, right? The correct way to think about it, the reason I am doing this channel is I think of myself as a 10-year-old explaining to 5-year-olds, right? That I am not an expert, but I know a little more than you, okay? You are where I was 3 years ago, 5 years ago. So here is my explanation.
And actually, that's actually smart.
I mean,
I told you he's smart.
I mean, I know people who think, oh my God, that's not the right way to do things and you shouldn't be giving opinions unless you are an expert. But I think, if you do that, then you leave the field open for the idiots. Let's not do that, right? So,
yeah, I should have basically done this 5 years ago, but no matter. 5 years later, still not too late.
Right. So 5 years later, what is the message?
What is the message?
Messages are: one, remember that Dunning Kruger effect is widespread, it is serious, and it can cause a lot of problems. Like it can lead you into the wrong kind of career, right? The number of students wasting time on JEE studies when they're clearly not fit for engineering in general, they should be doing something else that they are actually good at.
Yeah.
Right? The number of people trying to do a startup when they have no business doing a startup or even a business, right, is really large.
Isn't a lot of people doing startups and businesses are basically
they don't know how bad they are.
They don't know how bad. They might know how bad they are, but they might not have an option. I feel, listen,
maybe.
Okay,
depends
I'm projecting.
on the details. Okay. Completely different thing to keep in mind is that Dunning-Kruger effect has serious implications on the opinions you form and you hold. Okay. I'm going to read a tweet by G.S. Bogle, right? He says that, warning, many people don't have an opinion on something until somebody asks them about it. And then at that point, in that instant, they decide, oh, well, I need to have an opinion on this, right? So they cobble together a viewpoint from whim and half-remembered hearsay and this and that. And then once they have formed an opinion and said it out aloud, now they're stuck to that opinion. They will decide that this 2-minute-old opinion, makeshift opinion that they have is the new hill they will die on, and they will hold on to that for the rest of their life. And in fact, not just people, I mean, you can think of people who do this, you know examples, right?
Yeah, all of us know examples.
There is a recent paper showing that even AI, even ChatGPT does this, right? If you ask ChatGPT for its opinion on something and then later on give it data, it will refuse to take your data, okay? It will stick to its opinion. So this is important. Do not form opinions hastily.
Listen, anybody asks me something I don't know, my first answer is I don't know.
Yeah, you are not in normal people, okay? That we have established. So this channel is for normal people. There is research showing that a large number of people, if you ask them, oh, how well do you know so and so topic? And they will say, well, somewhat I know it, or very well, and all of that. Often of topics that don't exist. Researchers completely made up words and asked, how well do you know it? And people said, yeah, I know this somewhat, right? So
there are people, wow.
Right? Research,
okay,
there is a link, take a look at the link. But also,
that's bad.
This has implications for policy.
Of course it has implications for policy. People
so
go around.
It's so easy for politicians to get you worked up on things you know nothing about by just asking you for an opinion about that, and you make an opinion about that, and now for the next 5 years you're going to fight over that without having the data, right?
Yeah, but part of the reason is because there are some people you assign trust to. I'm not saying you trust them, but you assign trust to. Like, for example, you would assume that a politician that you voted for knows about that particular kind of stuff. So if they are saying
it's like
it,
the
then,
most idiotic thing I've ever heard.
No,
trusting politicians. Hello.
Listen, I'm not saying trusting politicians. That's why I'm saying I'm assigning trust to them. Like okay, let's not say politicians. Let's say journalists. So some journalists you assign trust to, and you say, okay, whatever this journalist says, I will believe because I don't have the time to research what they say. I will trust that they have done the research, they have done the study and whatnot. So you just accept what they say at face value.
Yeah.
But then you have to choose the right journalist for that.
And the number is very low, the ones who can be trusted like that. In fact, that is one of the difficult skills that we have to master in the modern world.
Trust but verify.
Knowing whom to trust, right? A completely different angle on this whole problem is what it is again a standard term that people are researching. It's called male hubris and female humility. Okay. In fact, the Dunning Kruger teamed up with another student, Erlinger, and they did a study which found that when you separate people out by gender, right? They asked 10 questions to men and women, and then asked them, how many do you think you got right? On an
average,
men
overestimated themselves, 100%.
Women underestimated, right? So
I wasn't overestimating men. Right. I was correctly estimating men.
So this sort of affects women more in some sense.
Of course.
And all of this has an effect on your teams.
Yeah.
Right? So if you are in a company, you're in charge of a team, people around you, what should you do? What is the right thing to do, right? It is important that there should be honest feedback, right? You have a high opinion of yourself, and if everybody around you, just to be kind, doesn't say what they honestly think, then you will never know. You'll never get out of the Dunning Kruger hole, right?
Elon, so are you listening?
Related concept is growth mindset. Look up the episode for that. But basic idea is that when somebody criticizes you, there are two kinds of people. The ones who get all worked up, oh my God.
How dare you criticize me?
Or more than that, this is like, okay, I am deficient.
Acha.
And the other category who say, oh well, okay, good, I have an area for improvement, right? So the second category are the people who are going to do well. Right?
Of course.
So in teams, there should be growth mindset combined with honest feedback, but also all of that needs to be combined with psychological safety, right? People should be willing to admit their shortcomings, admit their failures, and to take negative feedback, right? And generally value a variety of skills. Different people are good at different things, right? So overall, I think one message there is what Tukaram said in Marathi, Nindakache ghar asave shezari.
That's a saint in the local culture of Maharashtra. He was a Marathi saint, and he said, always have a critic live next to you.
Correct. And I mean, he knew about Dunning Kruger effect, obviously.
I wish I could I could cram this episode into the brains of every person I have met in life and everybody in the world, because these are important things for everybody to remember.
Yes. So should we do the part where we say all this wasn't really true?
Please.
Right. So couple of things to keep in mind, right?
We are Dunning Krugering the Dunning Kruger episode.
So one is that a lot of people, say Dunning Kruger a little wrong, right? I mean, we have also sort of said it as in.
We've done a bit of hand waving in the episode, but that is necessary to get the point across.
Right. I mean, when you say that the biggest problem with stupid people is that they're too stupid to realize they're stupid, right?
Did we say that? We haven't said that.
Haven't said that, but basically, it's important to remember that Dunning Kruger isn't about general intelligence. Okay.
Yeah.
It is about specific skills.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, in a particular area, for that particular skill, you might be bad in that skill and not know how bad you are. Right?
Like I probably have Dunning Kruger about football and cricket.
Correct. Which means that experts in one area can be dumb Dunning Krugers in another area, right? And intelligent people can still have their blind spots like this.
Absolutely, absolutely.
The other thing,
I mean, I can't go and decide what works in world politics. I have absolutely no knowledge of world politics.
Sometimes Dunning Kruger is a good thing, right? Having an optimism bias is necessary to survive in the world sometime, right? Some startups, some of the best startups, the ones that change the world, wouldn't have existed if the founders really knew how difficult it was and they were not really ready for how much effort it was going to be.
All of the startups that have changed the world so far, they started off with very simple ideas and then grew into behemoths.
Yeah, I mean, to mangle the JFK phrase, we do these things not because they are easy, but because we thought they would be easy. Right?
That's not, yeah, he mangled it. We do these things not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
The thing is that in the planning stages, it is good to have good understanding of the problems you can run into so that you can plan for them and you can have a backup plan. And
so in the planning stages, it's good to have imposter syndrome.
But then in the execution phase, having Dunning Kruger is good because if you don't know how bad it is, you keep going and maybe you succeed, right?
See, so that's the thing. The planning stages, I have massive imposter syndrome all the time, every time.
And you never get to that stage, right?
Yeah,
the imposter need a little more Dunning Kruger. I mean, a different way of saying it is that when a general is planning a campaign, you don't want him to have overconfidence. But then on the day of the battle, some overconfidence is actually good.
That overconfidence is what gives you courage.
Right.
Except I've never reached that part where I get the overconfidence, so I'm not really supposed to speak on it. Right. But he is, because he's the expert and he knows stuff. Yes. I am just...
So now...
Whatever.
Now, do you think you understand Dunning Kruger effect?
Not really.
Yes, correct answer.
Listen, Dunning Kruger is confusing. All I know is that I know nothing. Socrates, I know nothing.
Yes, that's the best way to start.
Srikanth, this is the best point to end. Srikanth, Naveen, FutureIQ.
Where we teach you that you know nothing.
Yes.
Thank you for watching till the end. If you liked this episode, check out these others. You might like them also. And please share with your friends. I'm sure they will also like these. Thank you.